Hi, and welcome to Wabi-sabi Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Yasmin. Thanks so much for joining me. Welcome to episode number 23, and really the beginning of the second season of the show. I began this show a year ago in February of 2019. And though it's been a slow and steady progress to an increase in episodes, this is, after all, called wabi-sabi, and so it is what it is. It's perfect in its imperfection. So thanks for appreciating that with me. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, welcome back. If you haven't done so already, and if you're enjoying checking out other episodes, please take a moment to subscribe to the show, leave a review, or post about it on social media, like on Instagram. You can tag the show at wabi-sabi podcast _. And a really quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. Without your help and your dedication every month, this show would not be hosted, and I would have a hard time continuing the growth of this show by myself. So thank you. And if you're interested in learning more about supporting the show directly, as I'm not pursuing any traditional ad sponsorship, check out patreon.com/wabi-sabi podcast. Today I had the absolute pleasure of speaking with a dear old friend, Dani Katz. I met her as a journalist here in Los Angeles. She has since departed the City of Angels for the Land of Enchantment and creates amazing content around languaging and the importance of words. She authored a book that was released last year called Word Up, Little Languaging Hacks for Big Change. It's got a lot of stellar 5-star reviews on Amazon. And at the end of this episode, I will direct listeners how to get a copy of that book, as well as links to her YouTube channel, her website, and Instagram. So, without further ado, I give you Dani Katz. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me in this totally spontaneous and rather fun and whimsical, almost an Mary Poppins sort of timing of things.
Very wabi-sabi.
That's very wabi. It is very. I do my best to stay true to the name.
Well done. Way to live it.
Thank you.
Live your brand.
So, my gosh, no matter who I'm speaking with, whether it's an old friend or someone I'm meeting for the first time in this container, I always have so many questions that bottleneck right in the beginning.
Okay.
But my first question is, how are you?
Thank you for asking. I'm well. I am acclimating to this quantum leap of wonderfulness that is my life. And letting myself have this. So I'm good.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Well, I just moved on Saturday to the most beautiful space in the most beautiful neighborhood. And everything's been so hyper accelerated. I came out to Santa Fe from Los Angeles in November on a whim. Didn't really know why. Didn't really know if I was going to stay. And every day I just reflect and I'm like, wow, it's so good. Like so much magic, so much support, so much community, so many unexpected additions of wonderfulness into my life. And just noticing like these sort of old, outdated doubt mechanisms of like, when's it going to get messed up, you know? And so I'm in the process of letting that go.
That sounds amazing.
It really is. super blessed.
So that's right, you've spent a lot of time here in Los Angeles, where I still am.
Yes, we're both hometown folks.
Hometowners.
It's the motherland.
Uh-huh. And you've spent time in Santa Fe and then came back, and now you're back there again.
Yes. So Santa Fe beckoned me for the first time in 2007, and it really saved my life. And that was where I made my first strong connection with Santa Fe. And then I got some writing residencies here in 2011, and I ended up staying until 2014. But I still had that, like, LA's better, and that ambition, and that, attachment. And now I'm happy to not be in Los Angeles. I'm very happy to be back in Santa Fe.
Uh-huh. And I imagine, I mean, being in and out of Santa Fe, you've noticed that it's, do you notice that it changes, or are you aware of the way that places change, or your perception of a place, how that changes over time, especially coming back and forth?
I am. I mean, I think I am, because it's not like I'm a completely objective observer.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, Santa Fe, what I've noticed is that it's really, it's quite the opposite of Los Angeles. Like, it's a healthy city with a lot of expansive life going in what feels to be a very positive direction. Since Meow Wolf put in their permanent installation a few years ago, I don't know if you're familiar with Meow Wolf or that whole thing.
I'm familiar with, but I haven't experienced it yet.
Okay. Yeah, so Meow Wolf, when I was here in 2011, they were like a Burning Man camp, and they put in, temporary installations in various spaces throughout the city, and then at some point George Martin, who created Game of Thrones, gave them a few $1,000,000 and said, do something permanent. And what they did is phenomenal, and it's really put Santa Fe on the map as, it always had like a healthy art scene, but maybe a little bit more for like a Texas clientele, like nothing that experimental, wasn't pushing any boundaries, it wasn't really that interesting. This seems to be bringing a lot of younger people, a lot of new, inspired creative energy, and it just feels really good.
We're actually going to be there. We're going to be coming through there later this month.
Yay! Oh, yay! I'm so happy. Awesome. Where are you headed to?
So we're heading up to Ojo.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, my God. Have you been?
We've been before. This will
Yum.
be my, I think, third time coming, because Pam is a student of Martine's, and that happens, that workshop happens twice a year. And this will be the first leg of 2020. And
That's so exciting.
and we're all going to come out, just like the whole family, the three of us.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we'll have to make lots of arrangements offline to play.
Yeah. Definitely want to do some more exploring. Would love to take Cora to Meow Wolf.
Yes. Sure.
I even found out that there's like a Jim Henson Muppets exhibit in Albuquerque.
Oh, that's awesome.
Where there's some like original puppets there. And
So fun.
anyway.
Yeah, and Albuquerque has such great, weird, old school vintage signage.
Yeah.
I love just paying attention to like the fonts and the palettes and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I've spent like no time. I've only passed through Albuquerque, so if possible, I'd like to at least like have a meal there or something. But oh my gosh, like the experience of New Mexico compared to LA, there's something familiar with California in terms of like just expansive land. Like when you start driving through California, like we've driven there once. It was actually 2 years ago. in an RV. That was quite a amazing and challenging ride. When you're dealing with headwinds and stuff, it's a different ball game altogether.
Right, and you have all that height to deal with.
With height and having to keep your kid in a car seat, and it's yeah. But just the expanse of New Mexico is a different kind of expanse than California, and it's hard to
different.
describe.
Yeah. I think a big piece of it is, I mean, the landscape is entirely unique. Yes, it's desert, but it's high desert. It's at high altitude,
Yes.
so it's really different. The skies are magnificent. And I don't think this is the same in Albuquerque, but I know in Santa Fe and possibly other parts, there are laws against neon signs, against billboards and bus benches, and against buildings that are taller than 3 stories. So there's nothing that will obstruct
The sky, yeah.
skyscape.
Yeah.
And that, for my Aquarian spirit, is just like it soothes my soul to no end. I really cannot overstate how much this little being and this little body loves that.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, God. I don't know if I want to bring God into this conversation, but I'll just say dog. I think God, like DOG and God are fun palindromes.
Palindromes are very up right now.
So I think yeah, dog dog bless the sky.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so good. I'm sorry. Oh my dog. I
my
love
dog.
that.
Oh my dog. Yeah, I look forward to frolicking through New Mexico and dealing with the difference in climate. And when we were there last spring, my skin was not thrilled, and so I'm gonna find new ways to hydrate my skin in a smart way.
Yeah, that's intense. It's key to add like cell food to water. Any of those supplements that make water wetter, I find super helpful. And also, like, I can turn you on to good skin balms and creams. It's definitely a thing.
Right, definitely a thing. I found one called Combo Cream or something like that. I forgot the name of the company. I found it at the co-op. What's it, Manzanita?
La Montanita.
La Montanita, right. Yeah, we love that co-op.
I know. It's like my favorite co-op.
That's a great place.
It is.
So I'm curious about a couple things. The writing that you've been doing and that you've released that writing into the world in the form of published books, as well as the content that you're creating on a regular basis that I am able to consume through Instagram, or was it IGTV? And I'm really curious what the path has been for you, like how that came to be in terms of releasing a book. And the book is called Words Are Matter.
No, Words Are Matter is my YouTube channel.
Okay.
And the book is called Word Up.
Word Up.
Little Languaging Hacks for Big Change.
It had a previous title?
It did. It was called The New P Handbook, Volume 1, Little Languaging Hacks for Big Change. And it was a huge mouthful. And after being on a few podcasts and saying the title, I would be like 6 syllables in and mortified and humiliated that I would have to keep talking for another 15 seconds to get it out.
Right.
And I just knew it was too long. And then I had reached out to Gay Hendricks reached out to me, who wrote Conscious Loving, and he was such a sweetheart. And he loved my writing, and he read the book, and he said, I would love to give you a testimonial, and I really am encouraging you to change the title. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I wanted an excuse
Oh, thank
to change
dog.
the title. Yes, oh, thank dog. And then our mutual friend, Zoe Siegel, she came up with a new title. So
That's great.
yeah. And then I jumped through a million Amazon hoops, and they said, no, 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 no. And I finally got them to say yes and let me do it.
Way to get Amazon on a chain, or way to yank their chain.
Thank you. Yes, I was tenacious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to ask me this. My path as a writer has been really non-linear. So this book came about, I was a journalist for several years and wrote for the LA Weekly for a decade and wrote for a bunch of other publications. And as the culture changed, like fewer and fewer editors wanted to deal with the pushback of my articles, or that my articles could potentially cause. So those doors got closed, and the vast majority of my articles have been pulled from the web just in the past few months. So that's fine. It's just an opportunity to pivot and dive into different realms, which is why I make a lot of videos now. For the moment, there seems to be more freedom there, and it's quicker for me to put out content that way than writing. As far as the book Word Up, I'd been playing with the energetic frequencies of words for years and studying how language creates reality, and really seeing remarkable changes in my life from shifting my languaging and diving into the belief systems informing the outdated languaging patterns. And I'd been like very casually and on the side putting out some videos and teaching workshops, but really only when I was asked. And a publisher of a spiritual imprint had reached out to me and asked me to write a book on the languaging. And actually, when I was in Santa Fe, I was living in a commercial refrigerator. It was such a tiny space. And over a course of 2 days, downloaded this quantum languaging book that had been sitting in my hard drive for years, just sitting there. So when he reached out, I said, sure. And I took about a year to tweak it and build it out. And then we had some contract negotiation issues just before launching, and I ended up self-publishing, which was a brilliant idea on my part. I love the freedom that has come along with that. So the book came out in 2018, and it's done surprisingly well, given how little energy I've put into promotion and marketing and whatnot. It's been super encouraging, and it's really allowed me to step deeper into that work and teach more workshops and really take more ownership and agency over that realm of competence with which I'm operating.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ghost wrote a book for a shaman last year for Shaman Durek called Spirit Hacking. That was released in October, and that's blowing up.
I've heard of Shaman. I hear that name through many different directions.
Yeah, he actually used to live in your hood, Echo Park, when I first met him, 11 years ago. And we've been friends for years, and I generally reject requests to write for other people because there's so much I want to say and there's so much to put out. So to take myself offline, for such an extended period of time to write for other people is not something I generally say yes to. And when Durek asked, my intellect was like, no, it's going to be way too hard. And my gut was like, of course I have to do this. And that was, to date, the most challenging project I've taken on. It was also really fun. So that was super cool. And
cool.
And now, because journalism, there's a part of me with it, it's heartbreaking that journalism is in the state where it is, and that my work is censored so often and whatnot. And at the same time, again, it's just, okay, it's an opportunity to pivot and be more creative and figure out a different way. So when I packed up LA, I I mean, the small extent that I did, because all my stuff is still there. But as I was driving out to Santa Fe in November, a screenplay idea dropped into my brain, and I was like, no, I'm literally leaving Hollywood. Like, I'm literally leaving it right now. I don't want to do this. And the idea has not let me go. It continues to poke at my shoulder. So,
Oh man, that gives me a really good question. I'm going to hold it. Keep going.
okay. So I've been itinerant the past few months. I just moved into my place yesterday. I'm picking up a desk tonight. So I'm still setting up to be in a place to like let the muses have their way with me and to, really dive into the craft of writing the way it demands when we're doing a big project. So I've been reading a ton of screenwriting books and taking a lot of notes, and I was just asked by another amazing spiritual teacher who I really respect to write his book. And yet again, my intellect was like, no way! And my gut was like, yes, you are definitely going to do this. And I said, let me write the screenplay first, and then we'll do your book, which is great because it gives me a deadline of sorts. So that's what I'm writing next. And I'm actually excited because most of my writing, 99.9% of it has been nonfiction, and I tend to be very didactic and in your face, and that doesn't resonate with everyone. Sometimes that's harder to digest. So I'm excited to be playing with this new genre and to fictionalize it and sort of couch the lessons and the medicine in like the candy of entertainment. I'm excited to play this way right now.
Well, I mean, what a modern and sort of, I don't want to say appropriate or inappropriate, but let's just say with a grain of salt, I'll use the word appropriate form of storytelling. Like screenplay to inevitably dramatize a story or ideas. It seems to be a culturally celebrated form of creativity and art and
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the idea. What I have been drawn to after I wrote Durek's book, I'd hit the wall on isolation and the isolation that writing requires, and solitude, and was just like, this is getting to be really tough. So the idea of creating something and then getting to collaborate with others in bringing it to fruition sounds really fun.
So you're doing the screenplay with other people, or you're doing it alone?
No, I'm doing the screenplay alone,
Okay.
and ideally I will get to produce and consult.
Right.
I tend to be pretty attached to my work. We'll see how that goes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So here was my question as you were describing, leaving LA as the screenplay started to emerge from you. And the question is this. It's more of like, it's what we do. That's what I do on the show, is really just ponder about all kinds of everything.
I love that.
What the fuck is up with ideas and creativity and just emerging fill in the blank when you yourself, you make a decision, you start to move pieces around, you're moving mountains to fulfill a decision or promise that you're making to yourself, whether it's location-based stuff, whatever it is, and then suddenly ideas are birthed from seemingly out of nowhere. My question is, do you find in your subjective experience that sometimes creativity and art and IP really is almost tied to a place? Maybe a physical location. It could be in a home, it could be in a city, it could be in a cabin or in a certain forest or whatever. And that when you start to make some big moves, suddenly like this, like Japanese like puzzle box opens up, and then that thing is released, and it's like, hold on, I need to be seen and held or released in this moment, regardless of whatever your plans are. It's obviously it's a fun like rhetorical question, but like I'm wondering like what your experience is of that.
Yeah, and just to be clear, are you asking specific ties to geography?
Not exclusively, but it's definitely a part of it. Like the idea of, so I was on my way out of LA and then this idea happened, you know?
I know. Well, it's interesting because our mutual friend Justin Polgar and I were discussing this as far as like the invisible alignment that synchronicity acknowledges, and whether it's like geometric or geographic or energetic, and my sense is that it's a combination of all of those things. So yeah, I do think it's a combination. And it's weird because the muses and the mystery of creativity, like it's on it, you know, it's in control. It knows what's going on. I feel like any sort of creative endeavor, I'm showing up as a servant to what wants to come through, and I'm taking instructions from it. And so for me, I feel like a lot of it is alignment. You know, it was like I left Santa Fe to turn a nonfiction essay collection that I had written here in New Mexico into a television show in LA. And when I gave up on that, I was like, fuck it, I'm not chasing that dangling carrot of Hollywood fame anymore, and left, then this idea came in. So part of it is like this weird, like, you know, are you fucking with me, dog? You know, like, you know, like, is this some giant cosmic joke? Or was I rewarded with this cool idea because I was courageous enough to switch up my life and decide, no, I'm going to like take a risk on something better. And at the same time, like, then we refer to like astrocartography. My Mercury line crosses northern New Mexico. So it is the place where I think the best, I write the best, I communicate the best. I don't know the best, you know, that sort of, those absolutes are kind of weird. But I'm very aligned with thinking and creativity and execution and writing here. I feel like geography and place, because there's also, it's not just place as far as like longitude, latitude. It's also like some homes or some offices or some cafes are more conducive. So I do think all of it comes into play. And I've yet to like map it in a way that makes sense to me, you know?
Yeah.
That I can track it. I did have the experience 2 weekends ago. I dog sat. Again, I love the dog theme. It was for an actual four-legged dog, though.
You could say you God sat at that point. Let's call it
God sat.
Yeah.
I love that. For a girlfriend of mine in Taos, and she is a priestess by trade, and she was out of town doing ceremonies, and I brought with me a project with a definitive deadline and all the materials I needed to execute. And I got to her house, and everything in me was like, nope, all we're gonna do is lay down and nap or stare out the window. And there was something about that place, her home, that was like, there will be no work, there will be no hustling, there will be no yang activity. And I know that was very specific to that place. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense to me based on similar experiences, you know, either particular to place or geography or whatnot.
And the last thing I want to say to that, just because you asked such good questions, and I love talking to you as always, Iceland, and I know you've been to Iceland as well.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to write something in Iceland. I'm very attracted to that place and how it would alchemize my own creativity and what will come through when I choose to write something there.
Yeah, I understand that wholeheartedly. What a fucking amazingly bizarre and beautiful place. When I describe my experience there, you know, the first thing I say to people is, you know, imagine like tropical Hawaii and just completely invert it. It's tropical. It's tropical in its own like northern hemisphere cold way, and it's as active or more active. But then you can also add glaciers and, you know, crazy weather patterns and like all the sulfur and all the volcanic rock. It's just so alive.
Yeah, but alive in this way that like
I'm not used to.
it's so unfamiliar. No trees and moss and the largesse of like the waterfall. Yeah, it's just such a crazy it's like another planet.
It is another planet. Thank you. Yeah, it really is.
Totally.
Compared to planet, Southern California, it's a very far away place.
Very different. And then when I just tap into, and I know we're both big Bjork fans and Sigur Rós, and like the creativity that's coming out of Iceland. I also read this amazing book called The Independent Man that was written by an Icelandic writer that was set there. There's just something about that place and how it connects to like seventh chakra, fifth chakra. I'm really intrigued.
Oh, fun fact for listeners. I've never done this before, so this is bear with me.
Awesome.
Iceland,
a whole new installment.
apparently Iceland has the highest number of authors, like per capita.
Really?
Not only do Icelanders consume and read a ton of books, but they also write and publish a lot of books.
Well, it makes sense, not just because of the crazy creativity we're talking about, because of the weather.
Yeah.
Like here, it's been such a weirdly really snowy winter, and I love it. And just in the past, like 4 or 5 days, it's starting to get sunny in springtime, and I'm like, no, I'm about to get into writing mode. Like, I need it to be cold and yucky so that I have an excuse to be indoors all day.
That's the LA in you that's talking. It's like that is so. It's like no wonder. It's like no wonder for me after a lifetime of living here. I'm pursuing this. Multifaceted, intellectual, leisurely, TE mindful discussion, path. Because nobody works here. Like no, what, like what?
It's really challenging.
It's very challenging.
Yeah, it's too beautiful, and there are too many fun things, and it's tough.
Yeah.
Tough in LA.
So you released Word Up about 2 years ago, and you said you're surprised by the the response, the ongoing response.
I got a call. This is so hilarious. I got a call last winter from a guy who, I know him through our sort of hippie wellness community, and he called and he was like, I want to know how you got your book to number 28 on Amazon. And I was like, my book is number 28 on Amazon? I didn't even know how to check it. I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I checked and I was like, I have no idea. It's weird as a writer as well, Adam, because it's like, I don't know who reads my stuff. Like, even when I was writing for The Weekly and, had like a really popular byline, who knows who picks it up? And, there's no real-time feedback. So I don't really know. I guess word of mouth and people who follow me. It's really gratifying, just the support, and when people post pictures and people send me emails and thank me. And when I hear people use the word omniscopic, it's so heartwarming. And there's a woman on Instagram where omniscopic empowerment is her profile name. And yeah, these things just tickle me, just to know that my little efforts are having a positive impact.
Talk to me about omniscopic for those who don't know.
Yeah, okay. So a big part of my work, quantum languaging, is studying how the subconscious mind works. The subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of our reality, and it's programmed by language. So every word we speak is programming our subconscious mind, and therefore programming our reality. And the subconscious mind does not understand nuance. It doesn't understand prefixes or suffixes. So where I was getting stuck was on the word unlimited or limitless, because understanding language the way that I do and the way that it programs our subconscious mind, I was clear that anytime I said unlimited or limitless, my mind was just locking in to the energetic frequencies of limitation. And those uns and those lesses, sure, they work as far as like interpersonal communication, but as far as the larger implications for reality creation, they're only anchoring in limitation. So I created the word omniscopic to mean every moment access to every potentiality that ever is, was, or will be, which basically is what, you know, those words unlimited and limitless are professing to transmit. They're just not doing it very well. So I created this word omniscopic, and it's in my book and it's on my website, and it's really cool to see it picking up traction.
Which is fun. I love that, and it's fun to hear that words like that, or like little creations like that, are, you can track those
Yeah.
to see like what the response is on like just a mass level.
Honestly, of like, you know, and I'm blessed because I have had, you know, a lot of platforms and creative impact. And at this point, I don't know that anything has tickled me as much as when I hear people use that word or when I see it moving throughout our culture. And it's, you know, I'm very clear that the implications of evolving our language are massive and that it's the easiest, most graceful way for us to uplevel our culture. So I just love, I just love the idea of that picking up steam, and to remove the construct and the cage of limitation from our imaginations and from our ways of moving through the world, and to have that, you know, a word that opens up that portal for us. Because when we're talking about like limitless or unlimited, like even if it worked and it doesn't, it's bringing limitation into the conversation, which will necessarily keep humanity limited. So I like, it just feels like a portal or an escape hatch or like a secret passageway into infinity. And I'm excited to see then what comes from it. You know,
Right.
what sort of innovation, what sort of novelty emerges by way of this word and its various implications. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Cool. I have a deeper. I'd say a slightly deeper question here.
Cool.
Why should people care about upgrading their language? Especially because I can't not like laugh within this question, even though the severity and the gravity to the question is very real. Given where we are right now today, like March 5th, 2020, like on the other side of, Super Tuesday, and where we are politically. Yeah, where we are politically, it's like, why should people care about languaging?
Such a great question. First and foremost, I never. First and foremost, I never advocate for absolutes like never. Secondly, I don't advocate for should. I don't.
Right.
I never am arrogant enough to tell anyone else what they should do. And this is the big reason why I encourage people to uplevel their languaging, because language really does create our reality. Everything comes through the word. You know, you can take it back to like Genesis if we want to go Bible-y on it. It's in all the metaphysical traditions. And the easiest way to describe it is there are these frequency bands that like surround the planet, you know, different morphogenetic fields, as Rupert Sheldrake talked about them. And so if you think of different energetic frequencies like empowerment, abundance, love, integrity, scarcity, whatnot, and all of those energetics and those frequencies that can define our lives or different experiences have corresponding frequency bands surrounding the planet. Like if we're going to use a physical metaphor, our words, every word has its own unique vibrational frequency, and those frequencies will harmonize with the larger frequency bands. So when I'm using words like say victim languaging. That's very, very popular in our culture right now. And it's very
Right.
unfortunate because there's no value in victimhood. Like winning the most pity does not make someone's experience of their own lives better. It really doesn't. And that is a grave misunderstanding in our culture. So when I use words that victimize myself, like when I say I can't afford a new car, right? I've just victimized myself to the numbers in my bank account. I've given them power and authority over me. It's a reason why I don't use should, because should alleges that I have power and authority over someone else.
Right.
And I don't, and I would never disempower someone by alleging that. We are all our own internal authorities. So when I say I can't afford that, I'm strengthening those victim frequency bands in my larger sphere, and that will shape my every experience because I'm affirming my victim stance. Same, this is a more benign seeming example is when I say I don't have time. I'd love to meet you for tea today, Adam, but I don't have time. Okay? I've just victimized myself to a perceived lack of time. And in stating those words out loud, vibrating those frequencies into our shared collective field, I've just connected myself to the larger frequency bands of scarcity and disempowerment. And though minor though that will seem, that will shape my every experience. Because think of how many times we're speaking unconsciously throughout the day. So it's super, super important. It's very important in like marketing and branding. It's very important in our interpersonal relationships, right? And creating more harmony and mitigating conflict. It's massively important in creating our realities. Because the more that I've attuned myself to using empowering language, I mean, you've known me for a really long time. So you know that like I played the victim for a long ass time. I made a career out of playing the victim, when writing for the LA Weekly, and like, this terrible thing happened to me. Doesn't this make for a funnier story, per se? And in tuning in to how often I was doing that, I was seeing how I was consistently directing reality to configure in such a way that I would be a victim and I would be disempowered. And once I caught on to that and shifted the languaging, everything changed so drastically. And like abundance is great and feeling, confident is great and my relationships are great. The biggest thing is knowing my empowerment, like really knowing that I'm creating it the way that I want it. And honoring other people's empowerment and other people's agency and being able to clean up my language or refine my language in such a way that I'm weaving reality the way that I choose to is just more fun. Like that's what it really comes down to is like we have a limited time on this planet in these meat suits with this configuration of karma, astrology, like what have you. And it just comes down to like, how do you want to live it? So for me, one of my the values that I prioritize above all else, and there are a lot, like of course integrity and compassion and whatnot, but fun is really up there for me. And this has just made my life so much more fun.
So what's a better way that I could reframe my initial question?
Why would I encourage people to change their languaging? What are the benefits of shifting our languaging patterns or upgrading our languaging patterns? What benefits have I experienced? I tend to keep it in the realm of my experience because I don't know what's best for someone or what someone else should do just because something worked for me. And we all have free will. And all that being said, that was sort of like my should caveat. All that being said, literally everyone on the planet will benefit from upgrading their language. Straight up.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting when you're giving when you're speaking, I'm getting an occasional like almost like a sound of like maybe clothes going over around the computer or something. Is it possible to maybe adjust?
I think what it is I gesticulate so much when I talk, and I think the cord
The cord. Maybe
connected
it's a
to my
cord.
headphones have been
Oh, okay, got
getting
it.
cut up. So I will be way
Got
more
it.
mindful.
Okay, got it, got it, got it. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gesticulating is important, and like doing it, yeah, just doing it in person would make
I'm
for.
always curious about gesticulating. Like, I, it, I would love someone to do a documentary on it, and if there's a map, and Jason Robel is a big gesticulator as well, and I'm always curious, like if there's like a reason to it, like if we tracked them, if we tracked his gesticulations in comparison to what he was saying, if there would be if a pattern would emerge. Because I don't know what it is. I know that I gesticulate wildly, and I don't really realize it unless I see myself on video where others comment. And I don't know, obviously there's no logic to it.
I have a theory though.
Oh, great.
My theory is gesticulating could be, some cross between like if a conductor conducts an orchestra, there's a lot of deliberate movement, and if you're gesticulating as you're storytelling or speaking, or you're being received, verbally through other people or through an audience, perhaps that gesticulating is a form of like spell casting, where it's almost like channeling deliberate movements like tai chi or qigong. Like those kinds of movements are powering up the words that you're the words that you're saying.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I am always curious about conductors because I don't know anything about that realm of expression, and I'm like, it looks like a dance, but I'm like, okay, it's a communication. Like people are taking direction from it.
Yeah.
I know that when I do medicine ceremonies, I spend the bulk of the time doing crazy stuff with my hands. It's like I'm conducting the air, the invisible, in some way. I don't know what it's about. I know it's very consistent. So something happening in the invisible realms.
Well, I imagine it's moving energy along with the words that you're saying.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I do find it's interesting because I work with words. I call myself a word witch. I do have, a degree of mastery that I continue to build with words. And at the same time, I find words so limiting, and often get so frustrated because they're, as far as conveying precisely what is wanting to come through me, there is the feeling of being limited by them. So yeah, I think what's happening with the hands is trying to expand on the expression somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
I really love your deep breaths.
Oh, thank you.
You're so helpful.
It just dawned on me. I'm like, I need to take a moment to breathe and just reflect for a second within a conversation, because at that moment I didn't have like, a question on the sort of diving board of my tongue to like, okay, I want to dive into this next thing. It's like, no, actually I want to just take a minute.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you doing it is giving me permission to do it and realize like I don't have to fill every second of space.
Yeah. And for someone like myself who I identify as like a soft-spoken and deliberate speaker, because it's, I don't want to say that I'm soft-spoken because I'm challenged by projecting myself. Rather, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm more of a calculated speaker. Maybe just reserved is perhaps a better descriptor for now, until I find a better descriptor.
Do you find yourself ever regretting things that you'd said?
Sometimes. Sometimes. It's not a regular thing, but I think I say sometimes because the moments that regret comes up, it's meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely notice in conversation or in a group setting, there are things that I feel like I may want to say, and yet I hold back because I'm aware that it may be unnecessary. It may not be adding to something positive. It may be socially awkward. So I find that I channel that into observing a lot more. And once I notice that I do that, then I find a more opportune or creative or artistic way to share something that will add positive to whatever the equation is, in that moment.
I really appreciate that. I know that's one of the, I guess there's an ancient Arabic expression that's like before you speak, to check in to see if it will add value. I really like that. And I also think, my sense of you, I experience you as being like attuned to like healthy human relationship harmonics. So I would see that as informing, when you choose to speak or what you choose to say, maybe more so than it is for me.
Yeah, and I thank you for reflecting that. I've been working on that, internally and in practice with other people in my relationships for, to me, what feels like an eternity at this point. Due to my upbringing and my, toxic parenting, and noticing that the first people that I've spoken to, being my parents, I've been able to extract from those relationships, like, yeah, that's shit I don't want to do. I don't want to do that to other people, and so I'm gonna choose to do it differently, and again, make positive from the muddy, sort of poopy examples with which I can draw from.
Well, that being the case, I would say that parental setup has really served you.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm reflecting, like, I've known you for what, 15 years?
Yeah, you're
I
right.
don't,
2005.
yeah.
Wow.
I cannot think of any time that I've felt hurt or put off by your words. Like, I've consistently experienced you as a peaceful, compassionate, very competent communicator. So I would say, like, sucky that your parents were sucky, and awesome that it inspired you to take this path.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I don't make a I used to make a career of like really doing perhaps the blame victim thing. And it's no longer the case. And I've been learning in my own creative, story creation, storytelling of my life on my terms. The more I grow and expand, within myself and, with the memories that I have and with the life experiences and the traumas and whatnot. And now in this phase of, partnership and parenthood, I'm absolutely able to alchemize all the quote unquote bad or less than fortunate, memories and experiences into, positive, communicating, listening, and fun as well. Yeah. A lot of it is fun.
Yeah, I feel like that's like, what else are we going to do with those experiences?
Yeah.
It's all learning, it's all
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like we get exactly what we need for our karma, our dharma, what we came here to do. And our parents gave us a lot of fodder to work with.
Yeah.
Bless them for that.
Absolutely. I would actually say, I think the last thing I'll say about that within this current container of conversation is I never had more compassion for, hold on, let me reframe. I found a lot more compassion for my folks upon becoming a parent. Because becoming a parent made me realize, made me relate to them better. I'll put it that way.
And what is it about becoming a parent that gave you that?
Well, I was experiencing, I got to experience, supporting my partner in birthing. I got to experience, being with an infant and a baby and a toddler and, diaper changing and sleep modulation and all the things that come with that, just whatever comes with parenthood. I don't know how to quantify all of it, but as I was experiencing those, milestones, every week or every month or every year, it dawned on me like, oh, my parents did this for me, as perfect or imperfect or whatever, however I want to judge, them as people or as parents. They did that and I made it this far thanks to their efforts, however I'm choosing to judge those efforts. And so it made me feel like I could relate to them as people or as parents. And so it was, I guess it's a form of like solidarity. Mm-hmm. So again, it's an ongoing positive. It's a net positive thing for me. Mm-hmm. And, it really couldn't have happened until I crossed that threshold into that experience for me.
Well, that's awesome that you have that. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that perspective that's opening up more well springs of compassion for your parents and their own path as being human's tough on everyone.
Yeah. Being human is tough. I've been hearing lately from a few people. I've been sharing some of my like newly written chapters of my life with some friends and some strangers, and I've been hearing the words, "Man, adulting is hard." Mm-hmm. That's what I've been hearing. I've been removing layers of shame regarding my current. I'd call it a predicament. That's a polite way of saying it. With my finances, I've talked to you about this, in recent past, and I'm right now I'm basically consolidating funds to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and I've been a lot more vocal about. This is what I'm doing, and here's the research that I've done on it, and here are the people that have come out of the woodwork to share their experiences about it, and so in that sharing and that experience of saying these things and receiving feedback from friends and strangers, I've been getting the whole like, man, adulting is hard.
Yeah. It's funny because there's like adulting and then there's matrixing.
Right.
And I wonder, like, it's not to say adulting isn't hard. I don't know, and also it's my preference to not declare challenges. And I wonder how much of adulting would be easier without the matrixing.
Yeah, and the matrixing, I imagine, is what it is for so many people, on an individual level or a cultural or religious level or whatever. That's actually the first time I'm saying this on the show, by the way. So I appreciate you being there to witness that on the show.
Honored.
And again, my removing layers of shame about it stem back to growing out of doing the blame game with my upbringing. Oh, I never had positive money examples or positive work examples. Or I can look back and say, it was money or the lack thereof that destroyed my, family unit and made for a crusade of a war and all these really divisive circumstances that led to stem from a lot of bad behavior and led to continued bad behavior. And those examples, those memories are what they are, and those examples are what they are. And so as I approach the threshold of that decision and following through with it, I'm realizing that doing it is a form of initiation and like a big sort of rocket launch out of the very old story I've been telling myself of, and internally, by the way, internally, this story of, I got dealt a shitty hand, and along with stories of abandonment by my father, and my mother turned into a toxic parent, and so on and so forth, and it all was because of money. And so I have to recognize that there's a really big imprint there that that's what I'm working with. And for me to approach this decision and, as they say, face the music, to walk into it as integrated as I can be right now, feels safe, as opposed to the swashbuckling of just grappling with feeling unsafe, with fill in the blank, whatever I had been doing up until this point, financially speaking. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for hearing all that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. And it feels like, just hearing you speak about it, this feels like a really empowering choice.
It is.
For you.
Yeah, thank you.
It feels like like I'm getting a chill. It feels like a definitive reset and a way to like clear the slate and for you to start fresh the way you want to. I'm super happy for you.
It's a thank you. It is a interesting experience of recognizing the way that the matrix is set up. Like, there is this option. You may qualify for it. And if you do and you fall through with it, you're given this clean slate, tabula rasa, this empty canvas with which to rebuild. And I've heard a number of stories now from people in my community say something to the tune of like, oh yeah, I had a friend who did that, and within 5 years they bought a house, or whatever the net positive effect was. And yeah.
Yeah, I just want to echo that because as I'm like scanning my mind, the people that I know who have declared bankruptcy, it's been completely positive for them. And they bounce back quick. And I also think like the Matrix is a debt-based sham.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I mean, it's actually an oddly compassionate option that exists within it.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, it is a interesting offering that exists, you know. And the interesting layer to this, which is actually a nice segue into this. Where are we at? Okay, how are you doing on time, by the way?
I'm good.
Okay.
It's such amazing timing that you reached out this morning because today's the first free day I've had in like 2 weeks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is that was a good segue into moving from this, sharing this thing that I'm going through in my life, because simultaneous with that realization and choosing to walk into the crucible of a bankruptcy as a sort of an initiatory experience, I'm also simultaneously feeling like I'm reinventing myself in the world. Because up until recently, I'd been putting myself out there as a experienced designer and focused on improving web and app experiences and helping to digitally architect net positive experiences, with partners, startups and agencies and whatnot. And I'm watching myself move away from that and into the space of actually returning back to these companies that I may have been working with and saying, hey, here are things that I've been noticing, like collectively, culturally, about being oversaturated with information, with our technology use. I've been doing some experiments on myself in regards to what I understand to be digital minimalism and digital wellness. And here are some things I'd like to offer to people, groups, companies, teams, whatnot, to seed a more positive culture that is more aware of their technology usage and can embrace a bit more humanity and more humility with what we're doing day to day. And so to do these things at the same time at moments is profoundly cathartic. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's
timely offering.
It is yeah, it seems like it is a great time to be talking about digital wellness and with the introduction of the screen time feature on our iPhones and our Mac devices and whatnot, but also it being more of a it making an impact on pop culture and what people are talking about. And there are individuals, I'm sure you're maybe aware of some of them, like Yuval Harari and Cal Newport and this guy Tristan Harris, who used to be he was a ethicist at Google, who then became a whistleblower.
It's an oxymoron.
It is. Talk about a lovely paradox. Yeah. He was like a design ethicist at Google and then outed himself as a whistleblower to say, I can't do this in concert with, the machine behind Google that's affecting the lives of 1 billion people plus.
Right.
So in the spirit of all these individuals who inspire me based on their, what they've spoken, the words that they've shared in the world and the words that they've written in articles and in books and publications. It's on the coattails of that I'm doing this offering, and obviously tea is also central to that, with the programming that I like offering to people.
This is brilliant, Adam. I'm really happy that you're doing this.
Thank you.
I feel like this is a giant yes. Cal Newport's books really shifted my digital use. And when I'm in the car at a stoplight and I have the urge to check my phone, I just remember, him talking about how it fragments the brain and creates brain damage. It's just scared me so much that I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that.
Absolutely. And therein also lies these nuanced benefits of parenthood. I like to talk about this sometimes with different guests. Like the beauty in parenthood right now, based on the age that we're at, Cora's going to be 5 this summer, but I already have a positive distractor away from my technology use. I have a kid, and we get to like talk and laugh in the car. Like I'll use my phone to like play music, and as opposed to like reach for it. And I have my vehicle that acts as a conduit for my, like the phone is able to plug into the car, and then the car becomes the phone, and I can basically use voice commands to like play music or find directions and whatnot. So instead of reaching for the phone and taking my attention away from the road, it adds to this really sort of holistic hands-free experience.
It's so interesting that you're saying that, because last night I was driving. I just moved to this place, and I'm out in the hills. Like I'm kind of outside of Santa Fe. So it's a little bit further than I'm used to driving. And last night after dance, I was driving home, and it's like, it's really dark because there aren't street lights or anything. And my Subaru, the setup, it doesn't, like the Bluetooth just doesn't work that well. I'm not set up for those voice commands. And I was noticing as I was driving, how I was so happy. I was like, that's so cool that I don't have access to that stuff anymore in my car. And how, like I had the inclination to be like disappointed in my car, but I reframed it as this is a benefit. Like I get to just be with myself,
Totally,
and be with my thoughts and focus on the road and drive safely and not need to multitask in that way.
yeah.
And then the other thing that I thought while you were speaking was that, moving, like it is just a pain in the butt, and it's exhausting and it's stressful, and spatial relations is not a realm where I feel entirely competent. So I feel like it takes me longer to figure out where things go. And I love just having those days where I was like completely analog. Like I'm just dealing with physical things and moving physical things.
Yeah.
And I don't have a spare second to even look at my computer, and this feels amazing.
Yeah. You just feel like immersed. You feel like you're dealing with the elements, you're dealing with shifting variables and the expanse of I'm uprooting from A to B, and the process of that uprooting, right? And it's more of a nuanced experience. Again, your attention isn't fragmented.
Yeah, and I'm dealing with real material
problem solving,
thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that you're doing this. I love this direction for you. I'm excited.
Thank you.
It's lucrative as well.
It feels important, and doing it. This is something I'm going to make another. I'm going to make another. What's the word here?
Dog.
I'm going to reveal something else on my show for the first time.
I love it.
Which is, I recently found a very strong parallel between the story I'd been telling myself about my upbringing and how I'm sad about that upbringing, and in that my inability to receive the type of love or validation that I want from my parents was strongly. I suddenly saw in clear, plain view how much of a parallel that became with my seeming inability to be in the world, to offer what I offer, whatever services or products or experiences that I offer to people. I wasn't getting the validation that I was seeking from clients or people, or so there was a really, really, really strong parallel there. And so being able to finally recognize it, and this has only happened in the last like 3 months. So being able to recognize that as a sort of a prerequisite to this, financial clean slate initiation that I'm going through, is the soil with which I'm sprouting this new, and yet as you graciously was saying, like, it seems like a timely thing to do right now. So any and all feedback I'm welcoming in, especially as it pertains to the writing, because writing is a big part of it as well. Because people are going to be just stumbling onto it through website or other road signs, through other whether it's Instagram or maybe some Medium write-ups as well. And yeah, so thanks for hearing all that. My gosh.
Yeah, of
My
course.
dog. Oh, my dog.
Happy to support you. I love this because I know that you've been tussling with these things for a while, and you've watched me tussle with my stuff for a while. It's so interesting how it seems to, in my experience, come down to like the parental imprinting, and when we catch on to how that is informing how we're creating our reality, and then dismantling that programming,
Yeah.
and that's when, and then liberating ourselves and being like, at this stage in our adult lives, like, okay, I finally left the nest. I don't feel like we're really adults. We talk about adulting, and I was talking about the crossovers with matrixing, but I feel like that's real adulting.
Yeah.
Is when we really liberate ourselves from that unconscious parental control. So that's awesome. Like, it's such great timing for you to be launching the digital detox thing at the same time that you're clearing the state financially and having these realizations. It's awesome. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. It is, yeah, in the moment it's incredibly precarious and also
Yeah.
and mercurial, and that's also I guess that's what makes it fun for me. In the moment, because in any moment I could be running around seeking to fill my pockets because I need to meet overhead and whatnot. And that's also the Matrix kind of talking as well.
Totally.
And yet I am exercising this profound surrender and profound calm to, I know that going out and manifesting isn't really it's not part of my programming. It's not part of my constitution.
Mm-hmm.
I've had enough life experience to recognize that. And so simultaneous, I've also recognized the ability with which I can magnetize people to me, in partnerships and alliances and collaborations to share these experiences, because it's really the experience itself that's the container with which I want to, share with other people. It's really about a shared experience. So here we are in real time.
Here we are. Yeah, I love that you know that about yourself. It's so helpful, right? It's like, okay, I'm not a manifestor. I'm great at magnetizing the people who will do that. Congratulations for that. And you have always been someone who anchors in these collective experiences for others. It's such a gift to the community and to your friends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, I just got so present yet lost in this phase of this conversation. I feel like maybe this is also a good bookmark.
Okay.
A bookmark so that we can I am the way I want to develop this show and is to really like have part 2 and part 3 and so on of conversations. I want to bring people back and muse on whatever else is going on. Because obviously we can go into, I could do this all day with you, and that's what's so lovely about it. And I also want, whoever's going to be listening to this to explore, your offerings and the content that you put out. So to have like a collective breather, let's put a bookmark in this conversation at this stage and come back to it.
Yeah, that feels great. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really honored to finally get to play podcasts with you.
Thank you, and thank Dog for the opportunity.
Yes, thanks Dog for the amazing synchronistic time-space confluence today.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yay.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks,
been
Dani.
fun.
All right, talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Really looking forward to having Dani back on the show. You can check out what she's up to at quantumlanguaging.com. Her book is called Word Up, Little Languaging Hacks for Big Change, which you could find on Amazon. Her YouTube channel is youtube.com/wordsarematter. That's the letter R. And her Instagram is something.dani. That's Dani. All of these links will be in the show notes, which you could find wherever you stream. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and wherever you stream your podcasts. Thanks again for listening. Please subscribe to the show. Leave a review if you're feeling it. And if you're interested in supporting the show directly on a monthly basis for as little as $1 a month, please check out patreon.com/wabi-sabi podcast. And next week, I will be featuring Wei Chao Kong from Standstill Tea. So stay tuned to episode 24. Thanks again.